Welcome to yet another episode of the Fearlessly Curious podcast. This week, we continue the journey of discovery of one of my favorite life tools called human design. Now, a quick summary. Human design is an incredibly important tool. It's a powerful tool that I've used for my own personal and spiritual growth and development. And it's one of the main tools I use for all my clients. And I'm fiercely passionate about it. It supports reparenting. I get to connect with my inner child and reparent everything that my parents were unable to do with me. And for many of my parents, it gives them an incredible touchstone and anchor from which to parent their children, from which to consciously parent their children, so that they're not parenting according to their filters of their personal experiences, but they can be amazing guides for their children based on what their children's needs are. So what is human design? Quick summary. It's a mix of astrology, the I Ching, the Kabbalah, and the chakra system. Human design shows you where and how you can access your body's consciousness, body's intelligence, way beyond the thinking mind, way deeper within the body itself as a decision-making tool, which ultimately supports you in living as your true self, beyond any conditioning. Human design offers you a roadmap, like a blueprint that indicates how you are as a unique person and how best to navigate the external world to your highest benefit. There are 12 human design profiles, and I'm going to run through them in a summary version without going into too much detail, but just to give you a gist of what the human design profiles mean and what they indicate. You have a profile which are two numbers. The first number represents your physical body, your conscious side of you. So it's a part of you that you are aware of. And the second number represents your design. And this part runs in the unconscious. You're never really aware that this is running. It's part of who you are. It's built into who you are, therefore part of your design. So two numbers, the first, the physical, the conscious, and the second, the design, the unconscious. So let's start with the 1-3. Now, the one line in the conscious, the one is known as the investigator. I like to call it the researcher. So the 3 line and the 1-3, the 3 exists on the unconscious, on the design side, and the number 3 represents, I like to call it the scientist. Some people like to call it the experimenter. So as a 1-3, you are an investigator or investigative experimenter. Okay, you basically investigate your own truth through your experiences, right? Both the 1 and the 3 line are very much internally focused. So the 1 is the investigator. You're investigating your internal process through your experiences, which is the 3 line. So the 1-3s are typically pretty skeptical. They're going to challenge, they're going to question, because they're researching, because they're gathering data, because perhaps you're challenging the status quo. You love to study. You love to explore, okay? Now, the vulnerability of a 1-3 line is that you might err to the side of caution, right? Because through your exploration, perhaps it's a bit radical for you to discover new things. So the investigator, has a vulnerability of staying limited within your own beliefs, and perhaps might allow yourself even to be controlled by the evidence that you're investigating. So the 1-3 line wants to focus on being open and be daring to really experiment with life, to experience as many things as possible. Often the 1-3 can feel like you're not really ready, because that 3 line, that natural experimenter of yours, is hidden. It's in the unconscious. So with the awareness that you have that 3 line in the unconscious, you can give yourself permission to really go where you've never been before, knowing that inbuilt within you is the ability to navigate and be resilient through experience. Let life be your greatest teacher of what truth looks and feels for you. So that's a 1-3, the investigative experimenter. Now, the next profile I'd like to go to is the 1-4. So 1, again, the investigator or the researcher. So, and the 4 line in the unconscious, which is the design side, is known as the opportunist, or perhaps even the networker. Okay, So 1-4 lines basically investigate your passion and align with the right people, okay? Investigator, opportunist. Now, if we go a little deeper, this combination of the 1-4 is typically quite rare. The 1 line, as we mentioned earlier, brings a depth of knowledge through research, okay, through investigation. And there's a desire to go deep into things that you are particularly passionate about. Now, being alone, sort of retracting, is going to be very important for you to curate this knowledge that you're investigating. However, being in community with the people that you respect the knowledge of will create an environment in which you can share your discoveries. That's where the 4 line comes in. That's where the opportunist comes in. So I'm going to rephrase that. The 1 line in you is the investigator, right? You're passionate about discovering the knowledge around what you are deeply desirous about discovering and what you're passionate about. You need alone time in order to curate this. However, finding the balance of the alone time with spending time with people who you respect with this knowledge, for who you can share this information with, is also important. That's where the opportunist is. So it's like a little bit of a social part of you, right? So balancing the research with being social. You will become an authority on what you have mastered when you find the correct people to surround yourself with in your network. The 4 line, the opportunist, being smart about who you choose to spend your time with, not only to share your discoveries with, but also to learn to do your research through. The 1-4, the investigative opportunist. All right, on to the next profile. The next profile is the 2-4. The 2-4 is the conscious line 2, known as the hermit. And of course, we just mentioned the 4 line in the unconscious, which is the opportunist. Now, the 2-4 is kind of like a combination between a bit of the introvert and the extrovert, I would say, the hermit and the opportunist. The profile energy behind this, the way I interpret it, is very much about allowing your unique wisdom to be drawn out of you. So as an introvert, as a hermit, you have a lot of alone time. You like to be on your own. But there's that opportunist part of you, that's that extroverted, that's that social side of you where you're out and about, but rather than sharing what you know, wait for people to kind of pull it out of you. So there's a little bit of a tension, there's a little bit of a conflict between the 2-4, the hermit and the opportunist, or as I like to call it, the introvert and the extrovert. And that tension is something you're going to feel because you're never quite sure whether or not you want to be alone or you want to be out networking with people. So it's important for people with the 2-4 line to bring into your conscious awareness very important grounding self-care practices. That means having that alone time and balancing that with social time. And that social time is also being selective with the people that you do spend your time with. It's about being selective and curating the environments in which you put yourself to take care of that 4 opportunist line. So you're going deep into your internal processes, the hermit, whether you're alone or you're in an environment where you can go deep into your internal processes. Finding that balance is going to be really important. Curating a close-knit, safe community is going to be what draws out the wisdom from you, not just for yourself, but for others too. So surrounding yourself with people who truly appreciate and see you as you are, who appreciate your natural gifts, is imperative. These gifts and talents are so inherent within you that often you don't even see it yourself. So environment and company is going to be so, so important because it's the people who you trust who's going to draw this wisdom out of you. That is the 2-4 profile. Okay, moving on. Let's go to the 2-5 profile. Now we know the 2, the conscious line, is the hermit. I like to describe it as the introvert. And the 5 line in the unconscious, the 5 line is known as the heretic. Okay, I know, at least for me in history, I remember the heretics are being the ones who were burnt at the stake. Those are the ones who had vision, who could almost predict the future. But often because of the information that they had, people would literally burn them at the stake. They would hold them to ransom for this incredible wisdom that they had. So there's something very delicate to balance. So the 2-4, the hermit, heretic. Now, if we were to sum up the theme behind the 2-5, it's almost like your gold nugget, your gold at the end of the rainbow is being alignment, total alignment, being in total alignment with yourself to share your truth. Okay, so what does that mean? People are going to come and project what their truth is onto you. Okay, so you become the mirror to people of the truth that they need to discover. They come to you for you to rescue them. They project what they need onto you. So you see it, right? And you have this deep desire to tell them what it is. But it's very, very important for you to decide that what you really want to spend your time and energy on. That's the 2 line, that's the hermit. You need to really discern where you want to put your energy, where you want to contribute your wisdom to, what you want to say yes to and what you want to say no to, because there is that potential for that heretic line to be burned at the stake, for you to be ridiculed, for you to be hated for the very wisdom or information that that person has come to you for because they projected onto you. So you have this vision for people. You can see what it is that they need, right? But you need to discern whether or not it's the right time, the right moment, the right energy, the right person, the right environment to actually share it with them. So how do you tell when is the right time? How do you discern any of these choices that you make on these profile lines? Is by leaning into your strategy. If you want to learn more about strategy, then you need to go back to earlier episodes on the Fearlessly Curious podcast, either episode 36 or episode 34. Check that out. Okay. Right, what's next is profile line 3-5. Now the 3, you mentioned 3 earlier, now it's on the conscious side. So the 3 is the investigator. The 3 is the scientist or the experimenter. And the 5 line, as I just mentioned, is the heretic. It's in the unconscious, right? So the 3-5 is the catalyst for change. Many people live kind of vicariously through you because on the front of things, you love to experiment. You'll literally jump into anything at all. You'll jump into the unknown. You have this incredible resilience to experience as many things as possible in life and almost be fearless. Many, many celebrities, many famous people have the 3-5 line because you have this boldness about you on the front, and on the back end, on the design side, people look up to you. People look to you for the answers, for the vision. Now, it can be very difficult for you when you have experimented with life, right, and failed, after everybody has been holding you up on a pedestal, right, holding you up to maintain their expectations of you. Does that sound familiar? I can see why many celebrities have this line, right? So you have this ability to navigate life incredibly. People hold you up there. They almost worship you, right? Because you fulfill all their expectations. So if your experiment if what you've tried in life looks like it's failed when really it hasn't, the pressure that you feel of failure is more likely to come externally. It's more likely to come from your adoring fans, from the people who are holding you up to your great expectations. So your strength is going to be navigating these ups and downs in life by simply embracing the messiness of life, no matter what people think. So letting what people think go, because what they think, first of all, is none of your business. And secondly, what they think of you is a projection of what they think of themselves. So with that awareness, you can offer yourself a little bit more grace and compassion. When you have this aligned vision of yourself, then ultimately you're going to magnetize, you're going to draw the people who are correct for you. When you get into this flow, you're very, very possibly going to attract towards you very likable and magnetic other profiles that are aligned to you. Okay, that's the 3-5. Okay, finally, the 3-6. We're now halfway through the profile lines. Okay, the 3-6, 3 is the experiential and experimental. You love to experiment. You have to experiment because you have to experience. And the unconscious line is the 6th line, which is the role model, right? People look up to you, but it's on the unconscious. So you're not even aware that people are looking up to you. So people like you, the 3-6, you're what I call taste testers. You have this lifelong journey of experiential learning, and then you go on to share that knowledge with people. That's the 6th line, the role model. Now, the first part of your life as a 3-6 is going to be all about experimenting, okay? So even if you're told, don't touch the fire because it's going to burn you, you're going to do it anyway because you need to experience it. You need to experiment and experience with it. Now, you're going to keep doing this until you hit what we call the Saturn return, which tends to happen after the age of 30, where you may find a little bit more contrast with yourself, right? You're not quite sure whether you want to continue to experiment or whether you're going to start to go inward and start to settle down within your own particular passions. Okay, you might be a little bit unsure as you navigate things. You think you've got things under control on the inside, but you may feel like you need a lot of space in that bracket of your life, almost to integrate things. Okay, and it's okay to ask for more space. You will start to learn to love the chaos of life and appreciate it because it is your greatest teacher. And that's when the wisdom starts to land after your 30s. You'll begin to learn to forgive yourself. You'll be able to see the great lessons that life has gifted you through your incredible resilience and the wisdom that comes from these life experiences. And when you do, people are not going to be able to ignore the wisdom that you've gained through your life experience when you share it with them in the later years of your life. That's the 3-6 line. All right, now we're going to flip things up. The next profile line is the 4-1. So now we have the opportunity, so I like to call it the extrovert, on the conscious line with the number 1, which is the investigator, the researcher on the unconscious line. So the opportunist investigator tends to have a very strong sense of self. You kind of know who you are, and you have a very powerful internal sense of right and wrong, of your own values. And your life is very much about sticking to your own truth. You have a very strong internal compass, and sharing the findings of your investigation of life through your design with your close community. That's the 4 line of the opportunist. So you're kind of just navigating life in your own internal world, and you're gathering this information quietly and then sharing it on the outside with your community. So you may be known for externalizing, sending out everything that you've taken in. Don't let anybody stop you. So there's a generosity in you when you're in community. And with that kind of quiet, that design unconscious part of you, which is the investigator, it might take longer. It may seem like it takes long for you to make changes in your life. You may be moving at a slower pace than everybody. And that's actually always fine. You're exactly where you're meant to be. Just remember that you're there to share it with people. Okay, that's the 4-1. Let's go to the 4-6 line. So the 4 again on the conscious side is the opportunist, and the 6 line, which is in the design and the unconscious side, is the role model. Okay, people come to you for that great wisdom. So with the 4 line, which is the opportunist, I like to call it the extrovert. It's the experiences that you have in community with other people that brings you great wisdom for you to share as a role model. So your whole life is about the external world. Your whole life is about going out and having experiences with people and the world and absorbing yourself in that process of being social, of being out there, right up until your first 30 years of life. And then, like before, right, experimenting with all these experiences as the opportunist. When you hit 30, this tends to peter off again. You kind of retreat, you take stock of the relationships, you start to draw on the wisdom that you've gained from these experiences of social activity. And you're going to feel a little bit of a push and pull between wanting to be out with people all the time and wanting to integrate this information on your own. And that's absolutely fine. You might even experience a little bit fear of rejection as you go through this change. And that's all part of the process. It's very important for you with that conscious 4 line to seek validation. So those are the 4 lines. It's important for you to curate a community, curate a group of people whom you trust deeply and who see you for who you are. All right, that's the 4, 6. Okay, we're nearly there, folks. Nearly there. 4 more profiles to go through. So 5, 1. Now, the 5 on the conscious line is the heretic, the visionary, the one who can see what other people's needs, what other people needs, the one that people project what they want onto them. That's on the conscious line. And then the 1, the investigator or researcher, on the unconscious line. So the 5-1 or the heretic investigator tends to be the person who wants to be a hero. You go deep into your knowledge base because you have that unconscious investigator, right? And you want to give it to everybody. You have all this information, all this knowledge, all this data, and you have the vision for people. So you just want to give it to everybody, and you love learning. And you change projects and challenges. You have this ability to just learn and learn and learn. And you're not afraid. You're the heretic. You're not afraid. You're fearless, right? And with that 5 lines of heretic, you're also extremely magnetic because people project what they need onto you. They are drawn to you to be their hero and heroine. You almost have this seductive nature about you where you are not doing the seduction consciously, but your very being is seducing people to you. They are being seduced to you because you have something to offer them from your knowledge base. Now, because people are projecting onto you, you can feel a lot of pressure to show up for other people. And this can set you up for great expectations from other people, which in turn can set you up for massive disappointment. So as a result of that, you may have a history of fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of abandonment, because that might have happened to you in the past. And just know that this has got nothing to do with you. This has got to do with your magnetic nature, your ability to draw on great wisdom that people need through your knowledge base. It's all about how they are projecting onto you. Boundaries is going to be particularly important for you. Knowing when to share and when not to share, knowing when to say no, knowing when not to use up all your social batteries, use up all your batteries just being there and providing information and wisdom for other people. Okay. Focus on what you love. Own who you are unapologetically, and learning how to say no, staying within your integrity of what your passion, love, and knowledge is. The 5-1 line. And then we have the 5-2 line. So the 5 again, the heretic, and the 2 line is the hermit. So I like to call that the introvert. Okay. So the 5-2 by nature, you're extremely motivated. Again, with that 5 line, you have this vision, right? And you are here to share with others what the vision is about them. But with that 2 line, the hermit line, and the quiet side and the design side, it's important for you to discover your own genius, your own particular gifts that you are here to put out in the world. So other people want you to be their hero, right? The thing is, you need to discover the hero within you for yourself. And that is going to be the tricky part to navigate, because you don't see yourself, you don't see your own gifts, you often hide them. And if the world hasn't discovered you yet, then working on or experimenting or playing with your own interests and your own abilities is going to be really important. If you wait for other people to recognize you, it's possible that you're going to become bitter and frustrated, maybe even angry, maybe even disappointed. So with the heretic and the hermit, it's important to ask yourself where you are retreating too much, where you are over retreating, where you're separating yourself from people, and where maybe expectations of other people are too high as the heretic. Where are you just fulfilling what people need rather than having some level of internal focus where you give yourself the opportunity to discover the hero within you? Okay, you need to focus on recognizing yourself while still putting yourself out there. So that's the 5-2 line. And we have 2 more. The 6-2. The 6 on the conscious side is the role model. And of course, we just mentioned the 2, which is the hermit. I like to say the introvert, the genius line. So as we mentioned earlier, the 6th line is all about experimenting and experiencing life right up until you're 30. So incredible resilience, just going ahead and trying different things and bouncing back, not really unknowing what failure is, because you just take every experience and swallow and digest the information as feedback. You let life be your teacher right up until you're 30. Trial and error is absolutely your process. And even though that 2 line of yours in the unconscious, that hermit light, wants to retreat, you're going to still keep doing it right up until you're 30. Now, when you hit that 30-year age, that is when that 2 line might have more space to kick in, that hermit line, and you will start to retreat so that you can start integrating all those lessons that life has given you. This is a time of deep healing. Okay, from 30 plus onwards for the 6-2 line, it can look and feel like a very tricky, painful chapter in your life to navigate as you integrate the pain and the struggle alongside all the wisdom and the greatness of your life during your experimental years. You will go deep inward. And as you do that, your skills and your understanding of self is going to expand as well. When the right time comes in your later years, probably from 50 onwards, just by being you, just by embodying and integrating that wisdom, people will start recognizing you for this wisdom, and they're gonna come to you. They're gonna draw you out of your introverted space, introverted process naturally. So don't resist this. I like to say pain is just a word for bread in French, but really for you, pain and struggle in those years, 30 to maybe a late 40s, is part of your process of integrating the great wisdom that people are going to come and look for you for and pull you out of this hermit state. You've got this. Remember, you are made for this. All right. And finally, the last profile line is the 6-3. The 6, again, the role model, and the 3 line is the experimental experiencer, or the experiential experimenter, also known as the martyr. So the 6-3 line is like this, you have this double whammy, right? I've got the 6-3. Double whammy, meaning right up until I was in my 30s, on both my conscious, the 6th line, my 6th line, and the unconscious, my 3 line, I had a double whammy of just experiencing life, doing everything possible. And really, that's what my life felt like. I've tried everything. I've lived such a colorful life. I've never really seen failure the way the world does. And boy, have I had my knocks in life. And no matter how hard I knocked myself, no matter how far I fell, somehow I managed to pick myself up. So my process has been both internal self-investigation, as well as external, going out in the world and seeing the world, breathing it and feeling it, suffering for it. And once I hit my 30s, I started to retreat, and very honest, because of my unconscious 3 line, I'm still experimenting, right? When I hit my 40s is when I really started to retreat, to go more into my deeper internal process. That's when my personal growth journey began. And I then continued to experiment within my internal process. 6-3 lines have a tendency to feel restless because we just need to try all the time. And that's definitely an energy that I have. I mean, that's really what's given birth to this podcast, the Fearlessly Curious podcast. We're always asking questions. We're always challenging. We're always experimenting. We're always wanting to experience with new ideas, new concepts, new perspectives, new perceptions. So a big part, a big aspect, a big quality that the 6-3 can invite into their lives is compassion, is softness, is tenderness, is this ability to slow down, okay? And to acknowledge that life isn't perfect, and it's the imperfections of life and experiencing that, which is where the gold is. To know that because you have the ability to pick yourself up, that is where optimism lives. It's not about where you fall, it's about how you stand up again. And 6-3, your responsibility and your wisdom comes naturally to you. You don't have to do anything. You just need to let yourself live your profile lines. the experimental experiencer, the experiential experimenter. The dance comes in finding the rhythm and pace of a structure of what you've learned, whilst flowing with the natural ebbs and flows of being a human being. So, my friends, that was a whirlwind of the 12 profiles of the human design system. I've done my best. If you have any questions, the best thing for you to do is to message me on any one of my social profiles, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can jump on the email, join my email list and message me there, or you can leave a comment on the website. You can leave a comment on YouTube or Spotify, wherever you're hearing this podcast. And now, of course, I'm also on Instagram Threads. So please, 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 I know it's been a whirlwind, save this, listen to it. I myself am experimenting. I'm on year 5, I believe, in my human design experiment. So I know I'm not about being perfect. All I know is I'm doing my best to find this information, distill it in a way that can be digestible to you. So I'm always learning. I'm learning through you too. If none of this makes sense, let me know. If you want me to go deeper with something, you want me to break things down, if you want me to slow down, let me know. I've got that 6-3 line. I'm here to experiment fully, and I'm here to deliver this wisdom that lives through me as a role model to you. I'm doing my best to live my human design. So until next time, stay fearlessly curious, my friends.